1 month after her e-scooter battery was stolen, a young woman named Ashley faced one of the most bizarre situations of her life. One afternoon, she had gone home for a nap during her lunch break, and within an hour the battery had vanished from her scooter. Furious, she stormed into the property management office demanding to see the surveillance footage. The camera had captured her parking the scooter and its general appearance, but unfortunately only showed the front and frame. The thief had crouched behind the windshield panel, staying completely out of frame. Ashley spotted a clump of gray hair in the area hidden by the windshield, photographed it carefully, and posted about the theft on her social media for 3 straight days, furious and frustrated. Then, a month later, just as she had given up hope, an elderly woman with gray hair stopped her at the building entrance one morning. The woman looked exhausted, her eyes red and swollen. Before Ashley could react, the old woman dropped to her knees right there in front of everyone. Ashley panicked and moved to help her up, but then froze. The woman grabbed her arm with one hand and started pounding the ground with the other, wailing dramatically. Through her sobs, she explained that she made her living collecting recyclable materials, that she had accidentally taken a battery home and charged it, and that it had exploded and seriously injured both her son and her husband. She insisted she wasn't trying to blame Ashley. She just needed the original purchase receipt for the scooter so she could track down the manufacturer. Ashley felt a brief moment of sympathy, but noticed several neighbors who recognized her quietly shaking their heads. She caught herself, thought it through, and made a decision. She looked the woman calmly in the eye and said, "There must be a mistake." She didn't own an e-scooter at all and commuted using a shared rental bike. She pulled out her phone and showed the woman the bright blue interface of the bike-sharing app. The old woman froze, speechless, then abruptly let go, got up, and shuffled away. Later that day, Ashley described the whole incident to her childhood friend Daniel. His reaction was immediate and alarmed. He told her she had no idea how close she had come to disaster. The explosion had nothing to do with Ashley. It was entirely the old woman's own fault for improperly charging a stolen battery. The only purpose of obtaining that receipt would have been to prove the battery belonged to Ashley, giving the woman legal grounds to sue her for the hospital bills and compensation. Ashley felt a wave of cold fury wash over her. The woman had stolen her property, nearly destroyed her own family through her own carelessness, and then had the nerve to try to pin the consequences on the victim. The next morning, the old woman was back in the same spot, on her knees again, grabbing Ashley's arm. She added new details to her story. Her son supposedly had cerebral palsy, and her husband worked a sanitation job, and she could not afford the hospital bills. She had clearly timed it to draw a crowd, and it worked. Bystanders who didn't know the full story began murmuring and pressuring Ashley to show some compassion. Ashley stood her ground. Then a young woman in the crowd suddenly called out, recognizing the old lady. The crowd shifted. Mrs. Patterson leapt to her feet, and a chaotic argument broke out between her and the young woman. This pattern repeated for 4 consecutive days. Every morning, Mrs. Patterson would be waiting, using the same tactics, demanding the receipt, kneeling, crying, and drawing spectators. On the 4th day, when Ashley refused firmly and clearly for the final time, Mrs. Patterson snapped, slapped Ashley with a $10 bill, and screamed that she was calling the police to punish this heartless young woman. Fine, Ashley thought. Let's settle this properly. 2 officers arrived, one older, one younger. Mrs. Patterson was by then sitting on the ground, too tired to keep kneeling. Ashley sat down too, calmly mirroring her. The older officer raised an eyebrow at both of them on the ground and asked what happened. Before Ashley could speak, Mrs. Patterson threw herself at the younger officer's feet, wailing about being a struggling 70-year-old scrap collector with a disabled son and a useless husband. The younger officer gently helped her up. The older officer, clearly experienced with situations like this, watched silently. When Mrs. Patterson finally got to the point that a battery had exploded while she was charging it at home, and she needed the receipt from this young woman, a voice from the crowd cut in sharply. "Hold on. Your battery exploded at your house while you were charging it? What does that have to do with her? Unless you stole the battery, and now that something went wrong, you're trying to blame the person you robbed. That sounds like the thief crying thief." Mrs. Patterson went quiet. Her head dropped. She rubbed her fingers together nervously. The older officer turned to Ashley with a look of quiet sympathy. Ashley spoke steadily. Her battery had genuinely been stolen a month ago. She had checked the camera footage, found only a partial image and a clump of gray hair as evidence, and had no confirmed proof of who took it. She asked the simple question: was her name written on that battery? Dozens of people had scooters. Why was this woman so determined to single her out? Mrs. Patterson stared at her, utterly speechless. The officers exchanged a glance. After a long round of mediation, the situation slowly began to resolve. Not in the way Mrs. Patterson had planned.